PHSNC Staff Training. Part 3. Cultural Competency and Respectful Service Delivery. Seeing the person, honoring the story, serving with respect. Welcome to Part 3 of the PHSNC Staff Training Series. Cultural Competency and Respectful Service Delivery. At PHSNC, we serve individuals and families with different cultures, backgrounds, beliefs, identities, life experiences, languages, family structures, trauma histories, and recovery pathways. Cultural competency helps us provide services that are respectful, effective, person-centered, and responsive to the people we serve. Learning objectives for Part 3. By the end of this section, staff will be able to define cultural competency and cultural humility, recognize how culture affects care, identify personal bias and assumptions, use respectful person-centered communication, and support culturally responsive service planning. By the end of this section, staff should understand that culture is broader than race or ethnicity. Culture includes language, religion, family values, gender identity, age, disability, socioeconomic status, neighborhood, education, trauma history, recovery community, justice involvement, and lived experience. Cultural competency is not about memorizing every fact about every group. It is about approaching each person with respect, curiosity, humility, and a willingness to learn. Section 2. Cultural Competency and Cultural Humility. Cultural competency means developing the knowledge, skills, and behaviors needed to work effectively with people from diverse backgrounds. Cultural humility goes a step further. It reminds us that we will never know everything about another person's culture or lived experience. We must remain open, reflective, and willing to learn from the person in front of us. At PHSNC, we embrace both. We build knowledge and skills while remaining humbly open to every person's unique story. Section 3. Why culture matters in behavioral health. Culture affects how people understand distress, healing, family roles, privacy, authority, trauma, spirituality, and recovery. Culture can affect how people describe symptoms, whether people trust providers, how families make decisions, views about medication, views about substance use, stigma around mental health, spiritual beliefs, communication style, help-seeking behavior, and recovery supports. For example, one client may speak openly about depression. Another may describe physical pain, tiredness, or stress instead. One family may expect to be deeply involved in decisions. Another client may prefer privacy and independence. A culturally responsive staff member does not assume. They ask respectful questions. Section 4. Bias and Assumptions. Everyone has biases. The goal is not to pretend we have none. The goal is to notice them, challenge them, and prevent them from affecting care. Bias can show up as assuming motivation level, judging family structure, stereotyping based on diagnosis, misreading communication style, assuming substance use equals character weakness, treating poverty as irresponsibility, ignoring trauma history, and assuming everyone understands healthcare language. Bias may appear when staff say things like, "They just do not care," "That family is difficult," "They always relapse," "They should know better," or "They are just looking for attention." These statements can block empathy and reduce service quality. At PHSNC, we look deeper. We ask what barriers may be present. We consider trauma, transportation, housing, food insecurity, family stress, symptoms, stigma, and lack of support. Section 5. Respectful communication. Respectful communication begins with tone. Clients should not feel talked down to, rushed, mocked, dismissed, or judged. Use plain language. Avoid unnecessary clinical jargon. Ask clients how they prefer to be addressed. Ask what matters to them. Ask who they consider supportive. Ask what has worked and what has not worked. A culturally responsive question might sound like, "What should I know about your background, beliefs, family, or experiences that would help us support you better?" Or, "Are there any cultural, spiritual, or personal preferences you want included in your service plan?" Section 6. Language Access and Understanding. Cultural competency includes making sure clients understand what is being communicated. If a client has limited English proficiency, literacy barriers, disability-related communication needs, or difficulty understanding clinical language, staff should follow PHSNC procedures for appropriate assistance. Do not assume that a client understands because they nod or say yes. Ask open-ended confirmation questions such as, "Just so I know I explained that clearly, can you tell me what you understand the next step to be?" This is not testing the client, it is testing whether we communicated clearly. Section 7. Trauma-Informed Cultural Responsiveness. Many clients served by behavioral health organizations have experienced trauma. Trauma may influence trust, memory, emotional regulation, communication, and engagement. Trauma-informed care asks, "What happened to you? What do you need to feel safe? What strengths helped you survive? What choices can we offer? And how can we avoid re-traumatization?" Cultural responsiveness and trauma-informed care work together. Staff should avoid power struggles, threats, humiliation, and unnecessary control. Offer choices when possible. Explain what you are doing and why. Respect boundaries. Be mindful of body language, tone, and environment. At PHSNC, we meet people where they are. That means we do not require clients to earn dignity. Dignity is the starting point. Section 8. Culturally Responsive Documentation. Cultural competency also applies to documentation. Avoid judgmental statements such as "client was lazy," "client refused to cooperate," "client is manipulative," or "client does not care about recovery." Instead, document observable facts and client statements. For example, client reported low motivation and stated, "I feel overwhelmed and do not know where to start." Staff used motivational interviewing to explore barriers and identify one achievable step. Documentation should be objective, respectful, specific, strengths-based, free from judgmental labels, connected to the service plan, and reflective of client voice. Good documentation protects the client, the staff member, and PHSNC. Section 9. Scenario Practice. Scenario 1. A client misses several appointments. A staff member says they are not serious about recovery. What should we consider instead? A culturally responsive and person-centered approach asks what barriers may be present. Is there transportation difficulty, childcare, work schedule conflict, housing instability, fear, depression, shame, prior negative experiences with systems, language barriers? The better response is to explore barriers respectfully and update the service approach as appropriate. Scenario 2. A client says spirituality is important to their recovery. How should staff respond? Staff should respect the client's statement and explore whether the client wants spirituality included in their person-centered plan. A staff member might say, "Thank you for sharing that. Would you like your spiritual beliefs or supports to be included as part of your recovery plan?" Staff should not impose their own beliefs or dismiss the client's beliefs. Scenario 3. During a home visit, You notice cultural and religious symbols in the client's home that are unfamiliar to you. The client seems to notice your reaction. What do you do? Use this as an opportunity for connection. You might say, "I see these items are meaningful to you. Would you be comfortable sharing a little about them?" Your curiosity, when expressed with genuine respect, can deepen trust and improve your understanding of what recovery means to this individual. Section 10. Key Compliance Reminders. As we close the teaching portion of this training, let us review the most important compliance reminders related to cultural competency and respectful service delivery at PHSNC. Reminder 1. Cultural responsiveness is a professional and regulatory requirement, not a preference. State behavioral health standards, Medicaid requirements, and PHSNC policy all require culturally competent care. Reminder 2. Language access is a civil right. Failure to provide interpreter services to individuals with limited English proficiency may constitute discrimination and expose PHSNC to regulatory and legal risk. Reminder 3. All clients have the right to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of their background, identity, history, or behavior. This right is non-negotiable. Reminder 4. Person-centered care must be reflected in documentation. Service plans, progress notes, and assessments should reflect the client's voice, goals, and preferences, not just clinical observations. Reminder 5. If you observe a colleague engaging in behavior that is disrespectful, biased, or culturally harmful toward a client, you have a professional and ethical obligation to address it. Silence is not neutral. Always follow PHSNC policy, supervisor guidance, applicable law, payer requirements, and documentation standards in all matters related to cultural competency and respectful care. Section 11. Knowledge Check. Question 1. What is cultural competency? Question 2. What is cultural humility? Question 3. Name 3 ways culture may affect behavioral health care. Question 4. Why should staff avoid judgmental documentation? Question 5. What should staff do instead of assuming a client is non-compliant? Closing. Culturally responsive care as a reflection of our mission. As we close Part 3, let us return to the heart of why we do this work at PHSNC. Our mission is to provide person-centered, compassionate, clinically sound behavioral health services that empower individuals and families to achieve stability, independence, recovery, and meaningful quality of life. Our vision is to build stronger families and healthier communities by meeting individuals where they are, helping them overcome systemic barriers, trauma, and unmet needs, and supporting long-term recovery, self-determination, and sustainable success. Cultural competency is not separate from that mission. It is how we live it. Every time you approach a client with curiosity instead of assumptions, you are living our mission. Every time you use an interpreter instead of cutting corners, you are honoring our vision. Every time you check your own bias and choose respect over habit, you are embodying what PHSNC stands for. The people we serve have survived extraordinary challenges. They come to us with courage, even when that courage is hidden beneath fear, anger, or exhaustion. They deserve the very best we have to offer, not just clinically, but culturally, relationally, and humanly. Thank you for completing all 3 parts of this staff training series: protecting clients, honoring rights, and providing culturally responsive care. You have invested in your professional growth and, more importantly, in the lives of the individuals and families PHSNC is privileged to serve. Remember, helping you live your dreams every day. That is our hero statement. That is our promise. And it begins with you.